So yesterday we were calculating ratios. We have done question number 13. Today we'll do the last question, that is question number 14. Okay. So let me share my screen. Yeah. So this is what we have done yesterday. We have completed question number 13. So we'll go for question number 14. So now I request any one of you please kindly read the question. Read the question for all of us.
The balance sheet of Y Limited stood as follows as on 31st March 2019. Capital 250, 250, reserves 120, 100, loans 100, 120, creditors and others nil, and other current liabilities 125, 25. Assets, fixed assets 400, 300 minus depreciation 140, 100. Net fixed assets 260, 200. Investments 40, 30. Stock 120, 100. Data 70, 50. Cash and bank 20, 20. Other current assets 25, 25. Miscellaneous expenditure 60, 70. Total 595 and 495. So scroll.
1 minute. Yeah.
You are given the following information for the year 2018 to 2019. Sales is equal to 600. Profits before interest and tax 150. Interest to 24. Provision for tax 60. Proposed dividend is equal to 50. From the above information, calculate return on capital, stock turnover ratio, return on net worth, current ratio, and proprietary ratio.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Hariharan. So he has given us 2 years balance sheet, assets and liabilities. He has given us, and he is asking us to calculate. Let us see what is given in balance sheet. First of all, he has given capital, then reserves, then loans, creditors and others, and current liabilities 125. Then fixed assets, he has given fixed asset, then minus depreciation, he has given net fixed assets. Then investments, he has given us, and then stock, debtors, cash in hand, cash at bank, and other assets he has given. Okay, and then other current assets, then miscellaneous expenditure, and then he has given us other additional information like sales, PBIT. What is PBIT? Anyone?
Profits before interest and tax.
Profit before interest and tax.
Yeah, I think you will be learning now. You might have learned in income statement as well as I think now again you're learning in leverages, right? Baby sir is teaching you. So PBIT is profit before interest and tax. That is 150. Then interest is 24. Provision for tax is 60, and proposed dividend is 50. Okay, that is the data what he has given us. And what is that you are supposed to calculate is return on capital. You have to calculate return on capital. Then it is also called as return on investment. And then stock turnover ratio. Then return on net worth, current ratio we can calculate, and then proprietary ratios. Okay, so these are the ratios we have to calculate. So it's very simple. Just put the formula for each and respective ratios, and then try to find out the data what is given there, accumulate the data, and then substitute in the formula, and you'll get the ratios. Clear? So let me show the screen. Yeah, Excel. Are you able to see, students, Excel?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So solution for question number 14. So first we have to calculate what? We have to calculate return on capital. So anybody knows what is the formula for return on capital?
PBIT,
capital.
capital employed.
Yeah, it is there. I think it is there in the last in your this thing what I gave you, the ratios notes, it is there in that. So return on investment, or they also called as return on capital employed, ROCE or ROI, both are same. So what are the formula, students? It is profit before interest and tax divided by capital employed into 100. And what is profit before interest and tax? He has given us directly in the question. And then he is asking us to calculate capital employed. We have to calculate. How to calculate capital employed? That is long-term fund plus shareholders fund or net worth. It's also called as net worth. Already you all know what is shareholders fund, because in earlier questions like question number 8, 9 and 11, 12 we have used it. So how to calculate shareholders fund? Anybody? Or net worth? How to calculate shareholders fund?
Shareholder fund means shareholder equity plus preference plus reserve and
Reserves and surplus.
surplus.
Reserve surplus, then some more is there. One more is there.
Preference shares.
Yeah, you already told, right? Share capital is equity plus preference plus reserves and surplus. Then one more you have to deduct. We have to minus something.
Fictitious asset.
Yeah, we have to deduct fictitious assets. What do you mean by fictitious assets?
Discount on issue of shares and debentures.
Pardon me?
Discount on issue of shares and debentures.
Yeah, all these miscellaneous expenses, what do you call it as miscellaneous expenses, like preliminary expenses written off, okay, and preliminary expenses, discount on
Advertisement
shares,
suspense account.
okay, and other expenses. So those are called miscellaneous expenses. So those we have to deduct. So first we have to calculate shareholders fund, and then we have to add long-term fund to that, nothing but long-term debts, and then we are profit before interest and tax he has given us directly. You substitute that and you will get the return on capital employed. Okay, students, to understand the formula, shall we go ahead and solve it? Any doubt? Yes or no?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let me write the same formula here. Return on capital employed, return on capital, or it's also called as capital employed, is equal to profit before interest and tax divided by capital employed, okay, into 100. So how much he has given profit before interest and tax in our question? In the question, how much he has given?
150.
Yeah, that is the PBIT. If you remember, we discussed already PBIT. How much is PBIT has given? You can see here. You can see here.
150.
150 directly has given. So no need to worry about PBIT. But first we need to calculate shareholders fund. So how to calculate shareholders fund? Just now we discussed already. So capital employed is long-term fund plus net worth or shareholders fund. So first let us calculate shareholders fund. So shareholders fund is equity capital plus preferential capital plus reserve surplus and minus fictitious assets. Fictitious assets. So let us find out how much he has given. Capital is how much? Here please take only 2019 data. Don't take 2018 data. Okay. So we are calculating ratios for 2019. Okay. So capital is 250, reserves 120. Then he has given us loans. And any fictitious assets he has given? Any fictitious assets? Yes or no, students?
No.
It is
So
there.
miscellaneous
Yes,
expenses.
sir. Miscellaneous expenses. 60, sir.
Yeah. Miscellaneous expenditure is 60. This is your fictitious asset. Okay. So this you have to deduct. So please remember 250 capital, reserves 120, then 60. So substitute now. So 250 plus 120 minus 60. How much you'll get?
310, sir.
Yeah.
310, sir.
310, sir.
310. Yeah. So 310 we got net worth. Next for this we need to add long-term fund. Any long-term fund he has given in the question? Long-term fund. Long-term fund is nothing but long-term debt, like debentures, okay, any loans, anything he has given us.
Loans.
Loan
Loan,
100.
sir.
Yeah, we have loans here. So loan is actually long term. How do I know it is long term? It's not short term.
Nothing is
Sometimes
given,
loans
sir.
can be short term also.
So if it was short term, it would have been mentioned in current liabilities.
Yeah, it will come under current liabilities. Very good, very correct. It will come under current liabilities if it is a short term. Since it is coming above that, then this is a long term loan. So long term loan is also a long term debt, okay, or long term fund. So let us add 100 rupees to 310. Calculate how much you'll get.
410, sir.
410.
10.
So 410 is the capital employed. So now we can calculate the return on capital employed. So we already have all the data. First to the data, you'll get the answer. So PBIT, how much is given? 150 divided by 410 into 100. So all of you please calculate.
36% is 36.58%.
6.58.
36.58 is correct. I also got same. So it is 36.58. You understand, students?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what is the meaning of this 36.58? What do you mean by that? Okay, their explanation is not given here, but you can interpret. So 36.58 I got. So what is the meaning of that? Anyone? Can you?
Return on investment, sir.
Return on investment.
Investment.
Yeah. So whatever capital they have invested. So the capital they invested how much? 410. So 410 is the capital what they invested, and the profit what they got 150. So when you calculate the ratio, it is 36.58%. So they are going to get 36.58% if any shareholders is going to invest in this particular company. So 36.58 is it good number or is it not satisfactory?
Satisfactory, sir. Okay.
Is it good or bad?
Good, sir. Good, sir.
It is good. 36% is very good actually, right? If you invest
sir.
in a bank deposit, how much will you get? Only 6%.
8 to 10%.
6 or 6.5% maximum.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Somebody said 10%. Is it 10%?
So for No, senior sir. citizens, it's 8 to 10%.
No. That is those days are gone away long back. Now it is not more than 8%, including senior citizens.
Sir, but in private banks, they provide 8 to 10%.
Yeah.
In private banks, they provide 8 to 10% on the fixed deposits. Sir.
Yeah, but please check now because of pandemic it is reduced again. Please check.
Oh,
They are providing.
okay, sir.
I know they were providing earlier, but now because of pandemic, all the banks have reduced the interest rate. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So the reason for why interest rates are falling is because stock market is rising. You can see that no stock market is rising. It is actually whenever stock market rises, interest rates will fall down. Okay, because a lot of investors will go to stock market to invest. So what happened? Demands fall down. Okay, so that's the main reason. Yeah. So 36.58 is a decent number, decent percentage. If anybody want to get a good return, they get that. Okay. Yeah. Next, did you understand, students, how to calculate return on capital employed?
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm sorry, but I understood how you got 310, but I missed out from where you got 100 plus 310. I missed out that one.
100, no?
Yes.
100 is nothing but the long-term fund we need to add. This is a long-term fund we need to add to net worth.
Okay,
The
sir.
long-term fund is given there. Long-term fund will be debentures or any bank loan. Okay, so those are
Yes.
long-term funds. It can be bonds, debentures, loans. So in our question, he has given us what? He has given us loans. He has not given debenture, no bonds, but he has given loans. So loans is a long-term fund.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
So 100 rupees,
Yes.
100 is Actually, I think it is in crores. I forgot to write that. So 100 crores is a loan. Okay, so that is a long-term fund. If he has given any debenture, you can take debenture also. Debenture, bonds, you can take that. Any long-term borrowings, okay, that you can take
Yes,
that.
yes, sir.
So
Thank you, sir.
100 I got from there. So total it is 410.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, if no other doubt, we can go to the next ratio. What are the next ratio, students? Stock runner ratio. I think you already know that how to calculate. We have done many times stock runner ratio. Quickly we'll do it. So what are the formula?
COGS divided by average stock.
COGS or sales divided by average stock. So do we know COGS or sales? What is given in the question? You can find here. Do you have COGS?
We have sales.
Yeah, COGS is not given. So what is the other alternative? Other alternative is sales, because I cannot calculate COGS because he has not given anything. He has not given percentage, he has not given gross profit, and income statement he has not given, he has given only balance sheet. From balance sheet, I cannot calculate COGS. Hope you all know that. Okay, so what we can do is we can take only sales. So we will take the sales as alternative. And how much is the average stock?
110, sir.
110. How we got that 110?
Sir, 100 plus 120 divided by 2.
Yeah, in this question here, that is why I
Yes,
have
sir.
given you 2 years data. 2 years data has given you that only for that reason. Wherever you need to calculate average, you can comfortably calculate averages. Okay, so he has given us opening stock. How much is opening stock?
100,
120, sir.
And closing stock is 120.
120.
So I know opening stock and closing stock. Add that and divide by 2. So let us do that quickly. So average stock is equal to opening stock plus closing stock divided by 2. So I know opening stock and closing stock. Substitute that. That is 100 plus 120 divided by 2. How much will get?
5.45.
How much average stock? I'm asking average stock.
110, sir.
0.8 is wrong. Average stock 100 plus
110, sir.
No, 110.
sir.
110, sir.
110, sir.
110. Yeah. Just tell me what I'm asking. Don't tell me the what I'm not asking. So now you calculate STR. Now apply the formula. We will use sales because I don't know the COGS. So how much is sales? Let us look into it again. How much is sales, students?
600.
600.
600.
sir.
So 600 divided by 110. To calculate, how many times you'll get?
So
5.45.
5.45.
5.45.
45.
Is it a good ratio? Is it good or bad? I think it is fine because anything above 5 is good actually, because they're able to convert the stock into finished goods and they're able to sell it in the market. So the number of times turnover is 5.45 out of 10. So it is good number. Okay. So 5.45 is good. Next, what is the next ratio? Return on net worth. Return on net worth, I think formula is not there in the formula sheet what I shared with you. Is it there? Return on net
No,
worth
sir.
is not there. Okay, anyways, I'll give you that. It is there in the Excel. You can copy it. Yeah. Return on net worth we need to calculate. Return on net worth is very simple. Earning after tax divided by net worth into 100. So all of you please write down the formula. Earnings after tax divided by net worth into 100. Did Sam George join? Sam George? Sam George Matthew? Kindly unmute. Sam? Are you able to submit your assignment, Sam George? I think he's sleeping. Okay. Yeah. You to write down the formula. Return on net worth is earnings after tax divided by net worth. How to calculate return earnings after tax? Anybody?
PBITA minus interest minus tax.
Yeah. So what is given in the question is, he has given us PBIT. He has given us profit before interest and tax. But formula is saying we need earning after tax. So how to calculate that? We have to minus the first interest, then we have to minus the tax. And he has given us interest 24 and tax he has given 60. So let us substitute now. So it is nothing but I modified the formula and wrote it. So it will be very easy for you to understand. Earning after tax, how to calculate? It is nothing but PBIT minus tax minus first interest, then minus tax. Okay, Sam. I thought you are sleeping. You are awake. Yeah, please message me after the class. In the WhatsApp. Okay, you message me in WhatsApp. Okay, so PBIT minus interest minus tax. So already we looked into it. So PBIT is 150, interest is 24, and tax is 60. So calculate that PBIT. And net worth already we calculated, right? Net worth, how much we have? Net worth already we calculated.
310.
410.
310.
Yeah, 310. So 310 is a net worth, or in other words, it is called shareholders fund. Let us substitute now. So 150 minus 24 minus 60 divided by
66.
310. That is net worth or shareholders fund. So minus and then you divide and let me know the answer. How much you're getting? How much is the numerator?
21.29.
150 minus 24 minus 60.
66.
66.
66. Yeah, 66 divided by 310 into 100.
21.29.
21.29.
Pardon me?
21.29%.
1.29. Okay. 21.29 is correct. So return on net worth is 21.29. This is what nothing but return on capital employed only. Plus only thing is you are considering after tax. If I remove the tax and interest part, it is 21.29. But is it a good percentage? Is it a good return for the shareholders?
Yes, sir.
It is purely for shareholders. Yeah. Provision for tax, is it percentage? No, he has not given percentage. He has given us 60 only. That means it's the amount, not percentage. Who is asking this question? I can't see your name. Next time when you mention, please mention your names. Yeah, Sanoj. Sanoj, it is not percentage because it is amount. Percentage symbol is not given here. Or neither he has mentioned.
Understood, sir.
Percentage. Got it, Sanoj?
Yes, sir. Yes.
That is why I'm not taking it as a percentage. If it is mentioned as a percentage symbol is there, or it is mentioned as a percentage on provision for taxation, then I can take it as percentage. Clear, ma?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So 21% is what the only the shareholders except the long-term debt holders, excluding long-term debt holders, they want to get 21.29% as return. It is a decent return. But people who are very what you call the risk takers who want more return, so for them it may not be attractive. So they may go for like startup companies, right? Startup companies will give sometime 100 and more than 100% return sometime. Okay, they may be attracted towards those startups or the companies, but 21% is good, decent for those who are interested in growing their money with a less risk. So for those companies, for those investors, it's a good company. Okay. So hope you're understanding like how to interpret the ratios. Okay, tomorrow when you also calculate, for example, when you do your projects next year, so you have to prepare ratios and you have to calculate, you have to interpret and tell to your company, you have to tell to your boss. Okay, so about your company, how it is doing and what is the return on investment, return on capital. So all that you need to explain to them. Okay, or you write in the report also. So that is why I'm explaining all the things. Okay, so 21% is a good return for those who want to invest, but people who are very aggressive investors who want to get above 50% return, so for them it may not be attractive. Okay, clear students, are you getting it what I'm telling, interpreting the ratios?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Next, current ratio. You already know we have begun our ratio calculation using current ratio only. So all of you know that. So current ratio is current asset divided by current liabilities. So first you calculate current assets. So what are the current assets given, students? Can you name the current assets?
Stock, debtors, cash
Sir,
and bank,
bank.
The
other
current
current.
assets.
Yeah. So these four you need to take. Okay. And current liabilities.
So 125.
Yeah. Only he has given current liability. Creditors and others he has given as subheading. And under that he has given current liabilities. So 125 only current liability. So current assets you have to add. That is stock 120, debtor 70, and bank and cash and 20, and other current assets 25. Do not take miscellaneous expenses. Okay, that is your fictitious asset. Don't take that. Okay.
Sir, what about investment, sir?
Investment, no. Normal investment is a long term. Only is mentioned clearly as a short term investment. Okay, or it comes under the heading current asset. Under that it is coming. Then you can consider it as a short term investment. Clear, ma?
Ha, sir.
Thing is given. It is always, it will be long. Normally investments will be long term. Only exclusively if he has mentioned as temporary investment or short-term investment, or he has given heading as current asset, under that he has given investment, then you can take it as short-term investment. But here he has not given any heading, he has not given, and then he has not mentioned the word short-term or temporary is not given. So it is by default investments will be long-term. So there is no need to take long investment. Clear, ma? Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Megha. Thank you. So let us substitute now. So current assets already we discussed, that is stock, bank balance, then debtors. Okay, same thing I substitute here. Stock 120, debtors 70, bank and cash 20, and other assets 25. Okay, so 120 plus 70 plus 20 plus 25, and current liability only one he has given, that is 125 he has given here. I have taken that. So please add and divide. So when you add numerator, how much you getting? That is
The 235.
current assets, how much?
235.
235. Yeah. 235 divided by 125. How much you getting?
1.88.
1.88:1.
1.88
1.
So is this ratio satisfactory?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
It is not satisfactory actually. The standard ratio is how much?
2:1.
1:1.
Pardon me?
2:1.
2:1.
2:1 is the minimum they need to have. Okay. If it is a bank and other financial institution, it will be more than that. It will be sometime 5:1. But for the minimum, for the normal company, for a manufacturing company, it is minimum 2:1. So current ratio is not good. That means what? The company has to invest in current assets. Okay. And reduce their liability. Liability they have to reduce. Okay, that is the current ratio. And the last one, what you have to calculate? Proprietary ratio. So what is the formula? It is there in the formula list what I shared with you. Proprietary ratio. What is the formula, students?
Shareholder fund divided by total assets.
Yeah. Shareholders fund divided by total assets. Total assets. Yeah. Yeah, Sanoj, I thought you are not attending classes because you are in internship, but I think you are catched up with the online classes. Good. So shareholders fund divided by total assets. Okay. They also called as total tangible asset. That means we have to deduct intangible assets like goodwill and all that if they're given, and then miscellaneous expenses we should not consider. Okay. Total asset doesn't mean that total asset whatever is given in balance sheet you should not take. Okay. That is why I changed the formula here. I wrote it as shareholders fund divided by total tangible assets. Tangible assets. Okay. That means you have to minus goodwill and miscellaneous expenses. Okay. So let us calculate first tangible assets, total assets minus fictitious assets. So how much is total assets in this question? How much is total assets?
595.
595. That is the total assets. So in this fictitious assets, that is 60, you have to minus any intangible assets he has given, like goodwill, brand name, or no copyright.
No,
No. Intangible assets, if they're given, you have to minus that also. Okay. So we have only miscellaneous expenses, 60 rupees, 60 we will deduct from total assets. So 595 minus 60. How much will get?
535.
35.
535. Yeah. 535 is the tangible assets. And shareholders funds already be calculated. How much is shareholders fund?
310.
Yeah, 310. So already we know that we will substitute directly. 310 divided by 535 into 100.
57.94%.
Yeah, 57.9.
4%.
Okay, others, how much are getting?
Same, sir.
Same, sir.
Yeah, all of you got 57.94%.
Sir,
So do we write proprietary ratio in percentage because it's not mentioned in the formula?
Pardon me?
So the proprietary ratio, do we write it in percentage? It's not mentioned over here.
Yeah, 1 minute.
so it comes under is to 1.
Yeah. Is to 1. Sorry. Yeah, it comes on turnover ratios. Yeah, you have to change that 1 minute. Yeah, so it is how much will get in terms of is to
0.58 is to 1.
0.58
is to 1.
580.
Yeah, 1 minute. 0.5.
8 is to 1.
Yeah, you can take it as 8 because 794. 8 we can take is to 1. Yeah. So that is a proprietary ratio. Okay. So for the shareholders fund is 310, but tangible asset, the total tangible asset, what they have 535. Okay. That means it is a good ratio because they have more assets. Okay. They have purchased and they need, if they want, they may need to invest more in more shareholders, they can raise more capital. The capital they have got, they can raise it. Okay, that is what proprietary ratio says that. Okay, so here the ratio certainly not. The firm should compare it with the other its own past ratios with the ratio of similar enterprise or with the same industry average. We don't have any of that now as per now. So we cannot exactly say whether this ratio is satisfactory or not. So we need to either compare with the previous one, previous year proprietary ratio, or we can compare with the industry standard. Okay, that is what proprietary ratio. So this is what anything else he is asking to calculate? Any other ratios? Yeah, that's all. Only 5 ratios they are asking. So this is your last problem for ratios. So any doubt in this question? Question number 14. Students, anybody has any doubt or any clarification you require?
Sir,
Yeah.
please explain again as to why we subtracted fictitious assets.
Where?
The last one, sir, current ratio, no, proprietary ratio.
Yeah, actually the formula is we should take only tangible assets. That means we have to exclude the intangible assets, okay, and fictitious assets. We should not consider that. Okay,
Okay, sir.
that is why we
Total
have to minus that. To get tangible assets, I have to minus total assets. I'll write it fully.
No, sir, no, sir.
Total assets minus intangible assets and fictitious assets. Anything is given in the question, we have to deduct.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Then when you do this, then you will get the total tangible asset. So whatever total asset is given in the balance sheet, do not take directly. So first you have to calculate tangible asset, then only you can substitute in the formula. So the formula
Yes,
is actually total tangible asset. I think in the ratios what formulas I gave, I think they are not considered it, or he has not given explanation. So maybe in the explanation he might have given it. For some ratios he gives explanation, like here he has given long-term debt means what and what is shareholders fund, he has given explanation. I think for this he forgot to give. Anyways, I'll try to edit it and send you once again. Okay. So this is the formula actually used for proprietary ratio. So the numerator should be shareholders fund and denominator should be total tangible assets. That is why I minus the fictitious assets. And intangible assets I didn't minus because it is not given in the present question. The balance sheet is not given any intangible assets. Got it, Jason?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, if no other question, then we will go for next unit. So second units get winded up here. That is the ratios. We will go for unit 3. That is introduction to management accounting. Okay, unit 3. So unit 2, what all we discussed, what all we learned? Can someone tell me? Unit 2.
Cash flow, fund flow, ratios.
Cash flow statement, fund flow statement, and ratios. These 3 are there in unit 2. And unit 1, what all we discussed in unit 1? Numerical part.
Cost sheet.
Cost sheet, yeah. Cost sheets. Okay, cost sheets and then estimated cost sheet you have to calculate. So start preparing for exam. What all is there? Okay, so unit 3, introduction to management accounting. So what is management accounting? Till now we were doing cost accounting and little bit of financial accounting. Now onwards we will focus only on management accounting. Okay. So what is management accounting? It's a process of identification, measurement and accumulation, then analysis, preparation and interpretation of communication of information used by management to plan, evaluate and control within an enterprise and to ensure appropriate use of accountability for its resources. That is what is management accounting. Okay, so management accounting makes use of various techniques which includes marginal costing, standard costing, budgetary control, break-even analysis, cost volume profits, that is called famously called as CVP analysis or CVP relationships, then ratio analysis, we just now learned ratio analysis, then interfirm comparison and uniform costing and internal audit, etc. So these are the famously used tools and techniques. So in this, we will be learning in our syllabus. One is marginal costing, we'll be learning standard costing, and then budgetary control, break-even analysis, and cost volume profit ratios will be learning. So all that you want to learn now. So management accounting is thus a presentation of accounting information in such a way so as to assist management in the creation of policy and in day-to-day operations of an undertaking. That is given by ICMA London again. Okay, in the beginning I told you when we started the syllabus, first unit. So what is management accounting? So management accounting is accounting which is prepared only for management, only for the use of management to take decisions. Okay, to create policies, to take decisions for day-to-day operations of a company. Okay, that is what is management accounting. For that, they want to identify the data, prepare the data, and they're going to do analysis, and they're going to interpret. And this data which is been prepared will be given to the management to take decisions and to make policies. Okay. And what are the functions of management accounting? That is planning, coordinating, controlling, and communicating. And they also do analysis of financial data and interpretation. Then qualitative information they're going to consider. That's one thing which you can learn here is in cost accounting, they take only quantitative data. Whereas in management accounting, they even consider the qualitative data also. Okay. And tax policies and decision making. And what are the main tools, techniques used here? Already we told in the earlier thing. So ratios, they're going to use unit cost, standard costing, forecasting, fixed budgeting, and flexible budgeting, and marginal costing, CVP analysis, that is cost, volume, and profit analysis. Along with that, they also use some of the operational research techniques. I think you are learning, right, in OR, operational research techniques. No, they're going to use that also for management accounting, plus some other engineering techniques also they'll be using. So ultimately, they're going to use all the tools and techniques, okay, which is available, okay, and they're going to make use of that, and they're going to prepare the data, and that data will be used exclusively by management. Okay. So the difference between cost accounting and management accounting. So you can see the scope. It is cost accounting is limited only for providing cost information for managerial use, whereas management accounting is broader than the that of cost accounting, as it provides all types of information like cost accounting as well as financial accounting information for managerial use. Emphasis, it is only emphasized on ascertainment of cost and control of cost to ensure maximum profit. Whereas management accounting is on planning, code controlling, and decision making to maximize the profit. And you can see here the techniques used here in the cost accounting is standard costing, variance, marginal accounting, and other things. And it uses all the techniques used in cost accounting. That's why we can see all that are used here also. Okay. But in addition to it, they are going to use ratios, fund flow statements, statistical analysis, operation research, and certain techniques from various branches of knowledge like mathematics, economics, and engineering, etc. Okay. And the evolution of cost accounting is mainly due to the limitations of financial accounting. So limitations of financial accounting led to cost accounting. And again, why management accounting separately they have to prepare? Because cost accounting has the limitations. And those limitations, to overcome those limitations, they have introduced the management accounting. Okay. And such a requirement, as per the requirement of the government, cost accounting is mandatory, but management accounting is purely voluntary. It is not mandatory for all the company to prepare. And database, it will be derived from financial accounting. So how we are going to prepare cost accounting? By using financial accounting data. And how do you going to prepare management accounting? You're going to take data from financial accounting as well as cost accounting and from other sources. Okay, so these are the difference, major differences you can see there. And cost accountant is actually in the lower level in the hierarchy in the management, if you see, but management accountant will be at the higher level of hierarchy in the organization structure. And installation, cost accounting system can be installed without management accounting, but management accounting cannot be installed in any company without cost accounting and financial accounting. So they need to have both the systems first, that is financial accounting and cost accounting. Then only they can install management accounting in the company. Okay, that is what about management accounting. So that is the difference between cost accounting and management accounting. Did you understand, students? Any doubt? What all we discussed till now? Before we go to the next topic, students,
Yes, sir.
are you able to understand what is management accounting and the tools used in management accounting, and the difference between cost accounting and management accounting? And we are going to learn particularly one topic in unit 3, and remaining topics we learn in unit 4. So unit 3, we are going to learn about budgetary control. Okay, so can someone tell me what is budgetary control means? Anyone? BCom, BPM students? I'm sure so many students are there from commerce background, management accounting background, or shall I call the names?
Sir,
Yeah,
Controlling of
the
expenditure.
process,
controlling of,
it's the process of controlling the income and expenses, sir.
yeah, controlling income and expenses. Okay,
Sir, to prepare a budget and for the future use and to compare it with the actual performance.
yeah, compare the actual performance. Sanoj, why can't you unmute and talk while you're sending chat messages? We want to hear your voice.
So managing income and expenditure.
Pardon me?
Managing income and expenditure.
Managing income and expenditure. Yeah. So budgetary control is mainly done for that, to control the cost, okay, and to make sure that you can see the picture, what they're doing in the picture. Can you think what they're doing? What these 5 people are trying to do there? Maybe each can be a one divisional manager. Maybe this person will be finance manager, production, okay, marketing. Other one can be S&D. Maybe this ma'am can be a HR manager. So all of them, they're doing something. What are they doing? They're trying to stretch something. That means that is a budget. Okay. So they're trying to have, this is a budget. Within that budget, they have to make sure that they're going to perform their duties and they're going to achieve the target. That is what is budget. Clear? So budget always it will be tight only. That's why you can see there, they're trying to stretch it out to the maximum what they can do it. Okay. That is what is called budget. Okay. So budgetary control is the process by which budgets are prepared for the future period and compared with the actual performance for finding out variances. So once you prepare a budget, we are going to compare that with the budget is nothing but which is prepared for future. That means you are going to prepare forecasted budget. That means you are going to forecast your expenses and income, and then you are going to implement this budget. Once you implement the budget, you are going to get the actual performance. And when you get actual performance, you are going to compare with the budget. And then you're going to find out whether you are within the budget or you have gone above the budget. Okay. And they're going to find out the variance. And then they're going to find out if the variances is too much, then the management will find out or take corrective actions to control those variances. Okay. That is what budgetary control. And we have CMA definition also. The establishment of budgets relating to the responsibilities of executives. That's why I told, right? The 5 people we can see there in the picture. So each executive is being given a responsibility to maintain the budget. Okay, within the budget, they have to perform their functions. To the requirement of a policy and the continuous comparison of actual with the budget results, either to ensure by individual action the ability of that policy or the budget, or to be provide a basis for its revision. If the budget is not realistic, then they may have to go for revision. Okay, so that is budgetary control. So what is the budget? So budget is a formal expression of the management's plan for the future. So whenever a budget you see that, you can see that behind the budget you can see that that is actually what management is planning, or that is their goal, okay, for the future, and how these plans are to be accomplished. So they have some plan, and for that, to reach the particular goal or a plan, they're going to prepare the budget, and then they're going to tell that the functional managers to apply these budgets in their departments, okay, or in their functions. The act of preparing a budget is called budgeting. Okay, the process or act of preparing budget is called budgeting. So budget, budgeting, and budgetary control. You can see that. So what is the budget definition? We can see again from CIMA: a plan quantified in monetary terms, prepared and approved prior to a defined period of time, usually showing planned income to be generated and or expenditure to be incurred during that period, and the capital to be employed to attain a given objective. Okay, that is a budget. So budget is nothing but it's a plan which is in monetary terms, and it has to be approved by the management before you implement it, and it is prepared for a particular time duration, and it shows what the planned income and expenditure, what the company is planning to generate and incur, and the capital to be employed to attain the given objective. Okay, that is what is this budget definition is very, very good. If you want to use in your exam, you can use this definition for defining the budget. Okay, so budget may be expressed in different ways. They call it as one is calculated by time. Some are called as short-term budget, others called long-term budget. If you prepare for within 1 year, you prepare budget for 5 months, 6 months. Okay, that is a short-term. Long-term is more than 1 year. You prepare for 10-year budget. Earlier, India used to plan 5-year planning. We had earlier 5-year planning. Okay, commission. So 5 years, 10 years. That is a long-term. Then behavior-wise, they prepare fixed budget and flexible budget. Okay, that means on the behavior of the budget based on the output. When your output is increasing or decreasing, whether your budget is going to be fixed or flexible. Anyways, we are going to learn more about this behavior budgets because that is there for our syllabus. And functions. Functional wise also they prepare budget, like sales budget for sales department, production budget for production department, cash budget for the finance department. Whether they have different budgets they're going to use for functional areas. Okay, so for our syllabus we have behavior budget, that is fixed and flexible budget, and then cash budget, that is functional budgets. We have only cash budget. So these 3 budgets we need to go to learn, okay, in our syllabus. So what is fixed budget? As the word says fixed. So can someone tell me? You can read and tell me what is fixed budget. Anyone?
So for a particular financial year, they would have fixed a budget, sir, like more than that amount, like they would have estimated all the costs and they would have fixed the amount, and it won't, they won't give any additional priorities to that. It'll be fixed. Like.
Yeah. So fixed budget is for fixed level of output or level of activity. Okay. If your activity is increasing or decreasing, then this budget will not change. It will be fixed only. Okay, that is what is fixed budget. For example, you're preparing a fixed budget, you're planning, okay, I'm going to manufacture 1 lakh units of output or 1 lakh units of say car. I'm going to prepare, I'm going to manufacture 1 lakh units of car. That is a fixed budget. But in actual, sometimes what happens is, because suddenly there is a huge demand, so what happens, sometimes you may have to produce 1.5 lakh cars, or sometimes there's a demand drastic low in the demand, like in the pandemic time, demand might have gone down. So you may have to reduce from 1 lakh to 80,000 or 50,000 maybe. In those time, fixed budget will not help you. Fixed budget will tell only for 1 lakh units of car, what you want to manufacture. Okay, that is what is called fixed budget. So that means when your output is changing, your fixed budget will not change. Will not give you any fixed budget when the outputs are changed. Okay. So when you can use this, only situation in which fixed budget is likely to track close to actual results, wherever you are able to say exactly, okay, this is what exactly I can manufacture, irrespective of what happens, then you can use the fixed budget. Okay, so costs are largely fixed, so cost is not changing. Okay, and so the expenses do not change as revenues fluctuate, or the industry is not subject to much change. Okay, industries like normally for FMCG product, they say it is not much ready to change. Okay, maybe IT companies, or maybe automobile sector or pharmaceutical sector. Okay, but due to pandemic now everything is changing. But in the normal situation, I'm telling. Okay, so that revenues are reasonably predicted. So those companies, they go for fixed budget. Or the company is in a monopoly situation. That means there are no competitors. Okay, so where customers must accept its pricing. So can you tell me any monopoly companies where there are no competitors for them? Anyone?
Railways.
Railways, okay. And our electricity companies like Bescom in Bangalore. So we are actually getting from Bescom only. So there are no any private players as of now. Okay, so those are the monopoly companies. So where nobody else can manufacture. Okay. So those situations you can use the fixed budget. Understood, students? So next is flexible budget. A flexible budget adjusts to changes in actual revenues levels. So actual revenues or other activity measures are entered into the flexible budget once an accounting period has been completed, and it generates a budget that is specific to the input. Okay, the budget is then compared to the actual expense for control purposes. So the word says it's flexible. It will adjust itself to a output. If your output is increasing, okay, or it is decreasing, your budget also will be ready to help you. You can use different budgets for different outputs. That is what is called flexible budget. Okay, and the budget which remains constant, there's a difference between budget fixed and flexible budget. So flexible budget is a budget which is flexible to your output or your revenue level when it is changing. Okay. Normally for IT companies, they use flexible budgets because they don't know whether they're going to get the demand, whether they're going to get the order for any software or no. So they'll be using flexible budget. Like for example, FMCG companies, normally they go for fixed budget because they know that how many number of units I have to produce, because on average they got this much of demand will be there. Okay, so those companies will go for fixed budget. Okay, so wherever they cannot tell exactly what the revenue they can get or what the demand can be, or demand can change. Okay, so those kind of companies will go for flexible budget. Okay, students, I think time is up, so we'll try to wind up. So next is difference between flexible budget and fixed budget. You can I think read this. You can only go through it. And then very important thing we have is zero-based budgeting. That is called ZBB, is a approach to plan and prepare the budget from the scratch. So normally how they prepare budgets, normally they take the previous budget and then they add some increments, either in expenditure or in income, then it will becomes a new budget. That's what traditionally they prepare. But when it comes to zero-based budgeting, they have to start with zero. That means what? You cannot refer your historical budget. You cannot refer your last year budget. So budgeting is a budget which is ZBB is a budgeting process which demands each manager to justify his entire budget in detail from the beginning. See, one of preparing budget is very important. Okay, students, but you have to justify whatever you are putting in the budget. You have to justify because your budget has to be approved. Okay, so in the ZBB, they have to get approval of the budget every year. Every year they have to get the approval. That is why the ZBB is used. And primary objective of the zero-based budgeting is to reduction of unnecessary cost by looking at where cost can be cut. So they can, that means they have to freshly think every year or whenever they prepare a new budget, they have to think wherever they can cut the cost, they can cut it. And if particular expenses fails to benefit the business and those expenses, they can remove it. They don't need to incur those kind of expenses. The same should be asked from the budget. So those expenditure you can remove it from the budget. That's the meaning of ZBB. Yeah. A difference between fixed budget and fixed budget, I think you can read. I will share the PPT with you. Okay, students? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we'll stop it now because time is up. And I have actually updated the question bank in LMS, that is Unit 3. Please download and keep it ready for the next class.